beat me. If they could beat me, they would have went to the polls. But now when I bring the people out, you don't let them in?
We're not your damn subjects. We are your bosses. We are the citizens of Dalton. And you will not.
Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor, is currently witnessing the rapid collapse of her political empire. And it's a spectacle that's drawing the public's attention like never before. Known for her flair for the dramatic and a tendency to stir controversy, Henyard has dominated headlines over the years. But after a string of high-profile failures and mounting public outrage, her once iron grip on power is slipping away. To anyone following this saga, it now feels like something ripped straight out of a Netflix drama, complete with political infighting, personal vendettas, and a theatrical edge that only Henyard herself could deliver. In her desperate attempts to retain control, Henyard has been juggling her duties as the mayor of Dalton while simultaneously holding on to her position as supervisor of Thornton Township. But her political career is sinking deeper into chaos, mainly due to a Democratic caucus that accelerated her downfall. Her re-election bid for supervisor ended in defeat, marking the beginning of the end for her political ambitions. The whole situation has played out like a slow-motion car crash, with Henyard desperately holding on to power while those around her increasingly question her judgment and leadership. The controversy kicked off with Henyard's controversial dual role as both the mayor of Dalton and supervisor of Thornton Township, positions that many found ethically questionable. Trying to manage two major political offices at once began taking a toll, leading to rising tensions and dissatisfaction within both local government circles and the public. As the Democratic caucus descended into chaos, Henyard's grip on both positions started to weaken. Her opponents saw an opening, seized it, and pushed her further into a corner. Her re-election bid for supervisor failed, and with the political tides shifting against her, Henyard's once unshakable confidence started to crumble. What was once a promising career built on bold promises and even bolder moves is now a cautionary tale of hubris and overreach. As Henyard desperately tries to stay in the spotlight, her public disputes, new scandals, and failed attempts at comebacks are only deepening her fall from grace. The public is watching as her empire crumbles, and it's becoming clearer by the day that her chances of a political comeback are shrinking. The once powerful super mayor may soon fade into political obscurity, her fate sealed by her own arrogance and the unraveling of her control. As the political drama continues to unfold, it's clear that Henyard's fall from grace will be remembered for years to come. The burning question now: can she mount a comeback, or has her political career already reached its bitter end? For now, the political world is watching with bated breath, eager to see whether Henyard can hold on to the remnants of her power, or if she'll completely fade from the scene. In a particularly dramatic twist, Henyard stormed out of a meeting in a fit of rage after discovering that her name was excluded from the ballot. It was evident that her political dreams were unraveling right in front of her. She didn't take her exclusion well, loudly venting to anyone who would listen and making her displeasure known at every opportunity. The scene was chaotic, with the crowd growing increasingly frustrated, shouting at her to kiss them goodbye and demanding she leave. Henyard's dramatic exit was far from the dignified behavior expected of a seasoned politician. But it wasn't just her angry outburst that got people talking. It was the circumstances surrounding her expulsion that added fuel to the fire. At the heart of the issue were a set of long-forgotten caucus rules that hadn't been enforced in over 30 years. These rules ultimately disqualified Henyard's slate of candidates from being considered. According to the outdated rules, in order to qualify for the ballot, a full slate of 8 candidates was required to cover various township positions, including supervisor, trustees, highway director, clerk, and assessor. The problem for Henyard? Her slate was incomplete. Without a certified assessor on her team, her candidacy was rendered invalid, and her hopes of re-election were dashed in an instant. As Henyard's supporters fumed and protested, hoping for a different outcome, the EDU man behind her political downfall was none other than State Senator Napoleon Harris. Harris, who also served as the Democratic committeeman for Thornton Township, stepped in to ensure that the caucus rules were enforced. His swift actions not only secured his own victory as the Democratic nominee for supervisor, but also ensured that Henyard's slate was disqualified, effectively knocking her out of the race. For Henyard and her supporters, Harris's involvement appeared to be more than just a simple enforcement of party rules. To them, it seemed like a calculated power play aimed at sidelining Henyard and clearing the way for Harris's own political aspirations. They believed Harris used his position to undermine Henyard's candidacy and make room for himself. This move left Henyard's camp feeling betrayed and outraged, convinced that Harris had engaged in a political power grab. As the tension between Henyard's supporters and Harris grew, it became clear that this wasn't just about enforcing rules. It was a battle of egos and careers. For Henyard, the loss wasn't just political, it was a crushing blow to her pride and her political future. Determined to fight back, she was willing to take on her own party if necessary. For Harris, securing the Democratic nomination for supervisor was a sweet victory, but it came at the expense of deepening divisions within the party. Whether Henyard's claims of unfair tactics and unlawful actions will gain traction, or whether Harris's maneuver will be seen as a necessary safeguard to protect the integrity of the system, remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. The political drama is far from over. The stage is set not just for a fight over who will lead Thornton Township, but for a much larger battle over the future of the region's party politics. As Henyard's fury boiled over, and Harris solidified his position, the stakes couldn't have been higher in this increasingly bitter political showdown. It was no longer just about who would win the supervisor seat. It was about the power struggle that would define the future of Thornton Township, and possibly beyond. Would Henyard's claims of being unfairly targeted gain traction, or would Harris emerge victorious as the new face of the party? Only time would tell. But, for now, the political showdown in Thornton Township promises to be one for the history books, filled with scandal, high drama, and stakes so high it could fuel any political thriller. As Tiffany Henyard's political empire continues to unravel, there's no doubt that her fall from grace will remain a key chapter in local political history. The chaotic series of events, marked by power struggles, backstabbing, and broken alliances, has all the elements of a classic political drama. And as this saga continues to unfold, there's no telling what new twists and turns will emerge in the coming days. For now, all we can do is sit back and watch the next chapter in this ever-dramatic political downfall, where the stakes are high and the outcome remains uncertain.
If you don't get the Democratic Party's nomination.
What do you mean? I will be victorious tonight. You will see. My people out here, they're not gonna go.
Drama queen Tiffany Henyard was certainly not about to let her political downfall happen behind closed doors. She accused State Senator Napoleon Harris of using unfair tactics to block her from the race, claiming the entire caucus procedure was a deliberate effort to stifle her candidacy. To Tiffany, this was not just a political setback. It was voter suppression. She alleged that many of her supporters, whom she had arranged transportation for via township buses, were unable to attend the crucial caucus meeting because the buses arrived late. In her eyes, this wasn't an accident. It was a calculated attempt to disenfranchise her base. Her anger reached a boiling point, and Tiffany didn't hold back in expressing it. In a private conversation, she boldly declared, "Tomorrow I shall be suing everyone involved." To Tiffany, the violations of her supporters' rights wasn't just a minor issue, it was a major injustice, and she promised to fight it with everything she had. But what made this whole situation even more absurd was the fact that many of her followers were left stranded outside, unable to participate in the caucus while it continued without them. The buses she had arranged were reportedly too late, causing frustration and confusion among her supporters who were left out in the cold, both literally and figuratively. Tiffany didn't see this as a mere oversight. To her, it was a deliberate attempt to sabotage her political career. The dramatic image of her supporters waiting in vain outside while the caucus went on without them added a layer of absurdity to an already tense situation. always ready for the spotlight. Tiffany seized every opportunity to portray herself as the victim in this power struggle. She framed the entire event as a textbook example of voter suppression. Her claims were as explosive as they were bold, and she seemed determined to make the most of the narrative she was crafting. For Tiffany, this wasn't just about a lost election. It was a fight for justice, a battle against forces trying to keep her from serving the people. Despite her fiery accusations, Tiffany's critics weren't backing down. Many saw her claims as just another theatrical outburst, a desperate attempt to discredit those who had ended her political career in Thornton Township. Whether her legal threats would gain any traction was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Her actions ensured the drama surrounding her downfall wouldn't disappear any time soon. As Tiffany prepared her lawsuit and took her grievances to the media, her supporters began to question the sincerity of her actions. Had they really been subjected to a coordinated effort to silence them, or was this just another act in Tiffany's long history of political theatrics? One thing that remained certain was that the drama wasn't going anywhere. Tiffany played her cards as only she could, and the public and media remained fixated on her supposed victimization. As the fallout from the caucus continued to unfold, the central question lingered. Would Tiffany's legal threats gain any traction, or was she just setting herself up for another public spectacle? Either way, it was becoming more and more clear that Tiffany Henyard wasn't going to fade quietly into the background. Instead, she seemed more determined than ever to make sure her political drama played out on her terms, whether through legal action or by keeping the spotlight firmly on herself. This saga had all the elements of a political thriller: a bitter power struggle, accusations of voter suppression, and a self-proclaimed leader unwilling to go down without a fight.
That's all it took for Tiffany Henyard to be out as the Democratic nominee for Thornton Township Supervisor, and she left here
It quickly became clear that State Senator Napoleon Harris had already cemented his place as the Democratic nominee for Thornton Township Supervisor. With his team pre-registered and well-organized, Harris held the upper hand. For Tiffany Henyard, this left her with only one option: run as a write-in candidate. But let's face it, how often do write-in campaigns actually succeed? The odds were heavily stacked against her, and Tiffany knew it. Still, she wasn't ready to accept defeat. With unwavering confidence, she boldly declared, "I will be victorious tonight. You'll see. My people are here, and they're not going anywhere." While her words may have sounded triumphant, the reality painted a much less promising picture. For many, Tiffany's downfall felt like the inevitable reckoning of her political career. Her time as both mayor of Dalton and supervisor of Thornton Township had been marred by one scandal after another, and with each new revelation, her reputation seemed to erode further. Critics had long accused her of mismanaging public funds, spending taxpayer money on extravagant vacations, expensive meals, and personal indulgences. One report even claimed that she spent over $443,000 in a single day on Amazon. Yes, you read that right. $443,000. To make matters worse, her cancer foundation was shut down after failing to disclose how it used donations, adding yet another layer of controversy to her already tarnished public image. And if that wasn't enough, the FBI had reportedly been investigating her administration for months, combing through everything from financial misconduct to potential abuse of power. With all of this mounting against her, many were left wondering how Tiffany had avoided serious legal consequences. But the final straw came when the buses she had arranged for her supporters arrived late. Tiffany's reaction, however, was far from graceful. Rather than acknowledging any mistakes, she acted as though she'd just won the lottery. She showed little accountability for the chaos that unfolded. While her fans might have admired her audacity and unshakable confidence, others saw her as conceited and polarizing. Her public outbursts, like the infamous village board meeting where she defiantly declared, "Like it or not, I am your mayor," only reinforced her image as someone who thrived on conflict. Some locals even began comparing her to over-the-top reality TV villains, This combative demeanor may have been a key reason why she lost support from political allies, making her defeat at the caucus even more likely. As the day of reckoning arrived, Tiffany's supporters appeared divided. Some rallied behind her, while others began questioning her leadership. For many, her refusal to back down and her dramatic approach to politics had become a double-edged sword. While some admired her tenacity, others saw her as a polarizing figure more focused on maintaining power than actually serving the people. The caucus, once a simple political contest, had become the latest chapter in her long history of controversies. Her extravagant spending habits, refusal to take responsibility for her actions, and combative attitude had all contributed to a political downfall that, for many, seemed inevitable. Tiffany's loss was seen by many as the long-overdue consequence of her actions. The fact that she failed to secure the Democratic nomination, despite her bold declarations, spoke volumes about her dwindling support. The FBI investigation, the BACKLASH shutdown of her cancer foundation, and her outlandish spending habits had taken their toll on her credibility. It was clear her political empire was crumbling, and her write-in campaign was unlikely to change the outcome. The caucus revealed a harsh reality. Tiffany Henyard was no longer the unstoppable force she once believed herself to be. Her political career, built on controversy and a combative approach to leadership, had left her isolated, with few allies willing to back her. The loss at the caucus marked the beginning of what could be the end of her political career. Her supporters, once loyal, were starting to question whether her leadership was truly worth defending. The tide had turned against her, and despite her bravado, Tiffany's days of political dominance seemed numbered. The drama surrounding her was far from over, but it was becoming increasingly clear that her reign in Thornton Township was rapidly coming to an end. What had once been a fight for power had now become a struggle for survival. As her adversaries closed in, Tiffany Henyard seemed on the verge of losing everything. The caucus, which initially seemed like just another political contest, had become the tipping point in a much larger saga that would ultimately define Tiffany's legacy. Would she be able to salvage her career with a write-in campaign? Or was this the beginning of the end? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. Tiffany Henyard was in for the fight of her life. As if her other challenges weren't enough, Tiffany's financial choices had become another major obstacle in her already tumultuous political career, further highlighting the stark contrast between her lavish spending habits and the financial struggles of the people of Dalton, where the median household income is only about $44,000 per year. One of the most talked-about instances was her alleged $443,000 spending spree on Amazon, an amount that many saw as emblematic of the excesses and mismanagement under her administration. The public, including her most vocal critics, were left questioning what these purchases were for, as the expenditures seemed to have no clear explanation. Additionally, her attempt to implement a 100% property tax refund for Dalton's residents raised suspicions. While it seemed like a generous gesture, some accused her of trying to buy the loyalty of voters in a desperate bid to secure re-election. The act, though seemingly generous, was widely seen as politically motivated, deepening doubts about her true intentions. In a stunning turn of events, it only took 10 minutes for Tiffany Henyard to be ousted as the Democratic nominee for Thornton Township Supervisor, leaving the embattled mayor visibly upset. But her troubles went far beyond money. Business owners in Dalton came forward with serious accusations of political retribution, claiming that Henyard had used her position of power to punish those who disagreed with her policies. One local pub owner recalled how the police raided their establishment after they refused to support one of Henyard's events. These accusations fueled concerns that the mayor was using government power to settle personal scores and silence dissent, painting a deeply worrying picture of a leader willing to compromise her integrity and the public trust to hold on to power. These serious allegations further eroded Tiffany's credibility and damaged the public's confidence in her ability to govern honestly. While some of her supporters doubled down on their praise, calling her bravery and defiance signs of a trailblazing spirit, others grew increasingly skeptical of her leadership. To them, her defiance no longer seemed like a courageous stand. It appeared more like an unwillingness to confront the reality of her crumbling political empire. With investigations into her financial conduct and leadership practices still ongoing, and her political power rapidly dwindling, many were left wondering just how long Tiffany Henyard could continue this fight before her entire political career unraveled. The drama had already played out on a national stage, and it seemed Tiffany's saga was far from over. Whether it would end in redemption or further scandal was yet to be seen. But one thing was for certain. Tiffany Henyard wasn't giving up without a fight. Despite the growing obstacles mounting against her, she had already discussed potential legal action to challenge the results of the caucus, claiming the process was manipulated against her. This wasn't the first time she had pushed back on a political process that didn't go in her favor, and she remained confident that her name recognition and loyal supporters would be enough to carry her through a write-in campaign. Henyard firmly believes that enough people will rally behind her to make her victory possible, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. Her unwavering confidence may be admirable, but her path to victory is far from clear. Running as a write-in candidate is notoriously challenging, especially when up against someone like Napoleon Harris, who now has the full backing of the Democratic Party and the political establishment. Harris's campaign is organized, funded, and supported by powerful allies, leaving Henyard at a significant disadvantage as she attempts to mount a comeback. While Henyard may continue to rely on her name, recognition, and the passion of her base to power her through, the reality is that she is up against a well-oiled political machine. With her financial troubles, growing list of legal issues, and deepening discontent from both the public and her political allies, Henyard faces formidable obstacles on her path. The question now is whether her fierce determination and political savvy will be enough to overcome the challenges ahead, or if her political empire is finally on the brink of collapse. No matter how the saga unfolds, it's clear that Tiffany Henyard's political future is hanging by a thread, and her fight to remain relevant in the political scene will be one of the most closely watched in the coming months. The drama continues to build, but with each passing day, Henyard's grip on power weakens, and her once promising political career risks being relegated to the annals of local political history. Henyard's hold on power has never seemed more precarious. She faces mounting dissatisfaction and public criticism from all fronts. Her leadership as mayor has been marked by conflict, particularly with village trustees, who have become increasingly frustrated with her actions. During a recent village board meeting, her financial mismanagement was brought to light, and accusations of political retribution swirled. Many villagers voiced their displeasure, reflecting the growing resentment of her leadership. It's not just the residents of Dalton who are turning against her. Even her own chosen police force is beginning to question her authority. The drama surrounding Tiffany Henyard took yet another dramatic turn, when Chief Name was ousted by Trustee Jason House, who is also running for mayor. This loss of support from key allies has only exacerbated the crisis. Under Henyard's leadership, the Dalton Police Department has been without stable leadership for the majority of the year, after a judge ruled that her appointed chief was unfit for the role. Reports indicate that morale within the department has plummeted, with an astonishing 82% of officers expressing dissatisfaction with their leadership. The pressure on Henyard continues to mount, but despite it all, she remains unwavering in her confidence. She claims that she will pull through with a landslide victory, even drawing comparisons to Donald Trump's political rise. However, Henyard's public bravado stands in stark contrast to the growing political, financial, and personal crises surrounding her. One of the most significant issues she faces is the financial mess she's left behind in Dalton. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was brought in to investigate the town's finances, and her findings were damning. According to Lightfoot's report, the village's general fund balance dropped from a surplus of more than $5 million in 2022 to a deficit of nearly $4 million by 2024. Moreover, Lightfoot uncovered that Henyard had used a village credit card for personal expenses, including purchases from Target, Walgreens, and Wayfair, further solidifying the public perception of her misuse of public funds. This discovery, combined with Dalton's mounting financial troubles, has sparked calls for Henyard's removal from office, with some even dubbing her the worst mayor in America. But the drama doesn't stop there. Henyard is also facing significant personal issues that only add fuel to the fire. Reports have surfaced that she's facing eviction from her rental property, as she has failed to make any payments since August. Her landlord claims she and her boyfriend attempted to change locks to prevent eviction proceedings from moving forward, only adding to her image as someone disconnected from reality and accountability. This financial and personal instability has deepened the perception that she is unfit to lead both professionally and personally. With all these challenges, Henyard's political future has never seemed more uncertain. While she has expressed intent to stage a comeback through a write-in campaign, it's unclear whether that will be enough to overcome the growing list of scandals and allegations against her. The odds are stacked against her. Not only is she facing a fierce challenge from trustee Jason House, but she's also dealing with ongoing investigations into her administration's financial misconduct and potential abuse of power. These investigations could lead to even more legal and political troubles down the road. Given the extent of her financial mismanagement, public outbursts, and personal turmoil, many are questioning how much longer Henyard can maintain her grip on power. The people of Dalton, who have voiced their concerns and frustrations for months, may be losing faith in her ability to lead effectively. Even if Henyard manages to secure some form of victory in her write-in campaign, it's uncertain whether she can weather the storm of ongoing investigations and public scrutiny. Her reputation has been so thoroughly tarnished that it's hard to see how she could ever regain the trust of the community. Some believe this may be the final chapter in her political career, while others argue that the caucus and all that followed were unfair, a deliberate attempt to silence her. Regardless of which side you fall on, it's clear that Tiffany Henyard's political drama is far from over. The next chapter in this unfolding saga will undoubtedly bring more twists and turns, but for now, Henyard's political career hangs in the balance, and the people of Dalton are waiting for her next move. Will she be able to push through her current difficulties and make a dramatic comeback, or will her political empire finally crumble under the weight of her financial mismanagement? Public outrage and personal scandals? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe for more updates as this dramatic story continues to unfold. Stay tuned, and thank you for watching SKB Diary.